So in thinking about today and the themes of making connections, I started to reflect on a theater devising tool that I use to build community and to guide young people to reflect not only on themselves, but on how they connect to community, to curriculum, and to those around them. So rather than a traditional set of closing remarks, I'd love to take you through a short experience that I hope you will be able to connect to your various areas of interest and specialty. So one of the things that I like to bring into my classroom is NPR. I'm an NPR junkie. And one of my favorite things on NPR is a series called This I Believe. For those of you who don't know about This I Believe, NPR invites writers and famous people and everyday people to write essays about what they believe most in life. And they're pretty inspiring. Recently, though, NPR announced a new series. And this new series, I think, is even more relevant to us as artists or to the arts in general, in that it focuses on moments of transformation, of potential conflict, friction, or productive tensions that have made people change, which I think is very much what education does. So this new series is called This I Used to Believe, and it calls for essays that marks change in belief. So let's play with this idea for a moment. Each of you should have two little strips of paper. So if you'll take those out, grab a pen, and on each piece of paper, you're going to write a statement down that begins with, I used to believe. And you want to connect your statements to something that you used to believe about teaching, about education, about kids, and or about the arts. So I'll say that again. A statement that starts with this I used to believe, and then you'll fill in the blank, and connect your statements to something you used to believe about teaching, education, kids, and or the arts. And this could be something that you used to believe this morning, or this could be something that you used to believe 5 or 10 years ago, okay? So some examples I'll give you from my own experience. I used to believe that teachers were boring. I used to believe that theater was only a hobby. I used to believe that science had nothing to do with theater. And I used to believe that I couldn't make a living in the arts. So you've each written down two statements. Then you've each chosen one of those statements to share with the group, and you've shared those out loud. And we're cutting this next piece a little bit short, just for time. But the piece where you would discuss with each other what the major through lines and themes are, or do any major questions jump out for you, things that you should be thinking about or addressing based on the statements, okay? So the very last piece of this exercise is to now collectively write one line. And this one new line should encompass everybody's beliefs around the table. And it's, we now believe. We now believe. Now, whether you realize it or not, as a group, you've collectively devised a piece of poetry, all right? This poem begins with, this I used to believe, and then it's followed by 4, 5, 6 lines, okay, that begin with, I used to believe. And if you want, you could cut off the first part. So on mine it might be, I used to believe that teachers were boring, that theater was only a hobby, and that theater had nothing to do with science. I used to believe, okay? So you can imagine how you might turn those lines into a piece of poetry that then ends with, and we now believe, okay? So we don't have time to move through it right now, but if you read this out loud, you have reflected on something from your day, from your life. You have connected with each other around the table, and you have created a piece of poetry.
I used to believe that everyone knew everything that I knew, and so I had to keep learning more.
But there would be a point when I would know what I need to know.
That I was only a presenting artist, and I would have no regrets.
That I could only change something, maybe, in my immediate world.
That everyone thought the way that I did. We now believe that there is constantly more to learn from each other, and we have the capacity to do more than we know.